to be testing out today is Hornady's Critical Duty 9mm 135 grain standard pressure bullet. This bullet is a new offering from Hornady since their critical defense line has been out for a while, but those bullets tend to be relatively light for caliber, and the Hornady Critical Duty tend to be relatively heavy for caliber. That's just one difference, but the reason the entire line came along is because some of those critical defense bullets weren't passing the FBI's tests. So a lot of law enforcement agencies, as well as private civilians out there, are only use bullets that will pass the FBI's tests. So Hornady came up with this line. There's a few different things that separate it from other bullets out there. It does have a nickel-plated case, as you can see. The primer itself is sealed, so that way, if you're carrying in adverse conditions or rough weather, whatever the case may be, it's going to stay sealed. It has the flex lock technology in the bullet, which is basically this little red thing. When it goes ahead and hits soft tissue, that red material compresses down, causing uniform expansion of the bullet. At least that's the theory anyway. We're going to actually test that here coming up in a little bit. But the bullet is also cantilevered and crimped, which is nice. Really, I think all defensive ammunition should have that feature. It prevents bullet setback for those folks out there who are repeatedly chambering their ammo, or more commonly, guys who use 1911s, even 9mm 1911s. The feed ramp angle on those kind of guns is a little bit steeper than others, so it generally will hit it and then go up into the chamber. And some rounds will set back significantly in those systems, so that will help prevent that. One of the other differences of the critical duty line versus the critical defense is the actual core. It's something you can't see in there. The core, the lead inside the core, is a heavier weight, more dense material to ensure penetration, especially through barriers. Now, we're not going to be testing it in barriers today, but if you look up the FBI's tests of these rounds, you'll see that it did penetrate much better than some of the other Hornady offerings out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the gun that we're going to be using in today's test, and then get into the test. The gun that we're going to be using in today's test is going to be your classic SIG P226. And up next, we'll get into the grotto test. Taking a look at the wound track, you'll see it opens up almost immediately. Has a relatively large permanent wound cavity right until about the 7 or 8 inch mark. Continues on down through the first block and into the second block. The leading edge of the round is right at 20 1/2 inches. Average expansion was right at 0.45 inches. And the retained weight after being pulled from the block was 8.8 grams, which equates to 135 grains. The round performed pretty much as expected. As you saw there, it did have very uniform expansion, but the expansion is on the low side for a 9mm round. And the velocity was on the low side as well. Now, those two things do correlate to each other and are related, and they're also intentional, I might add. Hornady did that. They designed the bullets so that way it wouldn't expand as much as some of the other offerings out there on the market by other brands, so that way they could ensure they had sufficient penetration. And really, in defensive shootings, sufficient penetration is the #1 factor in stopping the threat. So you always want to make sure you have sufficient penetration, whatever that sufficient penetration is to you. I'll leave that to you guys to decide, but the FBI says 12 to 18 inches. So this one actually went a little bit over that in that bare gel, but if there's a barrier in there, that may very well have affected it. But all in all, it expanded, performed well. It's been 100% reliable in every gun I've tried it in, to include the SIG that you guys saw earlier in the video. Really don't have anything negative to say about it. If you guys are looking for a load and you guys are fans of Hornady, I know a lot of you are out there, for defensive use, this one might be one you want to take a look at, your 9mm guns, so long as you're comfortable with that penetration. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you guys have any questions about this test, feel free to post in the comments below. You can also post over at my Facebook page if you don't have a YouTube account. But I hope to see you guys in the next video, and thanks for subscribing.